Which one is hang on?
We're rolling?
Where
We're rolling.
I don't know, we're missing Michael and Jean.
No.
It's too nice to see.
Okay.
Elisa, could you turn on screen share if you don't mind? Sorry, who's
Are you
sharing?
logged in?
Who am I sharing with? Mike, I'm sharing with you.
Mike? This is Mike Gilliard, sorry.
Thank you.
Yes, I can't hear you.
This is Mike with the land.
Mike, am I sharing with you?
Yes, please.
You're all set.
All right, good.
Thank you.
All right, good evening. We're going to call the monthly meeting of the Community Development and Housing Committee to order. It is 6:42 p.m. We have a star-studded cast for tonight. So without further ado, we will bring on Mike Gilliard from the Kingston Land Bank to give us his annual report. Are you comfortable, Mike?
I'm comfortable with Mike and our sort of communal sharing of responsibilities. Nate Hennigan, our board chair, would actually give the presentation in our bylaws of the city board chair.
Okay.
So if you're okay with that?
Yeah, listen, do you want to come,
Sure, yeah,
just join us here at the table?
Cool, works for me.
All right.
All right. Thank you for having us here
Thanks for being here.
to give our annual report and give you an update on all the great stuff we're doing. So. Oh, I have to turn it on.
Sorry about
Okay, now let's.
There we go.
There you go, look at
There we
that.
go. Got it.
Look at boy,
Wow,
that.
That's really
Wow.
communal work, yeah.
You guys
We've
are
been working together a long time. We got a group going.
No wonder you got on first.
that.
With this kind of professionalism? Nice. Okay.
All right, so we'll start with some quick introductions. So I think you all know Mike Gilliard, our amazing executive director. I'm Nate Hennigan, the board chair. And then we'll run through our presentation, make sure to leave plenty of time for some Q&A at the end.
Okay.
So. There we go. So we'll start with just a quick overview of who we are, what land banks are. So in general, New York State land banks, they're nonprofit corporations. They were created to help municipalities return tax foreclosed, often abandoned properties back to the tax rolls. Public authorities, there's 29 different land banks that currently operate in New York State. As for the Kingston City Land Bank, we were established back in 2018 as a nonprofit 501c3. We have a volunteer board. We are also the only land bank in all of New York State that is self-developing properties with priority for affordable housing. So of all 29, we're the only ones that are really doing this.
Nice. Boy, you guys are ahead of the curve, man. Nice.
We're trying. We'll talk a little more about the ARPA funding later on, so I'll put a pin in that. But you know, our big mission obviously was to help the city of Kingston accomplish its housing goals by returning these properties to the tax rolls as well as creating affordable ownership opportunities. So here's a quick map. All of those little orange dots are the various properties we have all over Kingston, either properties that have already sold and have been developed, or properties that we're currently in the process of selling or in pre-development, but wanted to show this as a representation of, you know, we're really all over the city of Kingston.
And how many properties is this in total? I just,
Total,
well, just counting the,
well, 27 that we currently have.
Got
Yeah, is it 27 total, including the sold? Yeah, 27 total. And then we put in a little, our little headline that Kingston Wire did actually just yesterday, following our ribbon cutting. That was kind of nice.
nice.
So at a very high level, again, our focus is returning the properties to the tax rolls, creating sustainable neighborhoods with a focus on affordable homeownership. And you know, one of the things I want to mention here about generational equity is that you know, we are selling these homes for often 2 to 3 times less than their actual appraised market value. So what that means is that these families have equity in these homes on day one. Now, there is an enforcement mortgage so that, if they sell it before a certain time, there are things that kick in, but this is really an opportunity for these families to continue to build that generational wealth and generational equity in them and really take part in the value increase of these homes over time as well. So this was something that we just put together recently to try and give a really high-level summary of the KCLB by the numbers. So there's 27 properties that we have either already sold or are currently holding. Of that 27, 13 have been returned to the tax rolls. 9 of that 13 have been fully rehabbed and sold as affordable, which means they were sold at or below 80% of the area median income. 4 of those 13 were sold as is properties. 3 were residential, sold as is, and 1 vacant parcel. So what that means is we've created 9 new affordable homeownership opportunities so far, plus 6 more coming soon with our upcoming Legacy Cities 2 project that we're going to be breaking ground on pretty soon. I'll talk a little more about that a little later. What that also means is that by returning these properties back to the tax rolls, we've created new annual tax revenue of $48,000. That means every single year, $48,000 gets added to the city funds that would not have otherwise gone into the city coffers because these were vacant properties that were generating we're actually a drain on the city resources. And that's per year and increasing with each new property that we add back on. So going back to when we sold our first home in November 2021, that means a total of approximately, we're estimating, but approximately $105,000 has been returned to the city where these properties would have otherwise been a drain on city resources. Of those properties, $2.2 million in actual assessed market value, and $301,000 has been paid to the city in back taxes to acquire the properties. Most of that comes from properties we acquired early on where we were paying the full price of the back taxes. Some of them more recently have been acquired under the City of Kingston disposition policy. So there's a $1 upfront payment, but with a deferred payment that comes later at the time of sale. We've also, in the lifespan of the KCLB, invested $2.7 million in the local economy through all the construction work to rehab these homes. And all of these numbers have been done with $0 in direct spending from the City of Kingston, because all of our funding has come from private grants, state grants, various funding resources, but none of which has come from direct costs to the City of Kingston. So when we're talking about our key priority here of returning to the tax rolls, again, the 27 properties that have been acquired so far, there's 13 that have been returned to the tax rolls. We have 14 more in pre-development. Of those 14, 6 of which are going to be part of our new Legacy Cities 2 project that we're breaking ground on hopefully soon. Another 6 are part of a vacant parcel that we've sort of cobbled together that we're calling our Third Avenue project. That's going to be a new construction project that we're really excited about. So we're still in the very, very early stages, but working through that. And then 2 additional vacant properties are part of that 14 that are in pre-development. So looking ahead to 2024 and beyond, our focus is going to continue to be single-family home rehabs. We've sort of got a good group going, so we're going to keep doing that. And then just wanted to share some great photos that you can see of these houses over time. So looking ahead to the rest of this year, well, some of it ahead. We actually just had our ribbon cutting event for 29 Rogers, 169 Hurley, and 124 Franklin. With these 3 properties, it culminated basically the completion of our 2 first projects where the first was a 5-home pilot program. The second was the Legacy Cities Access Program through the state. We were actually the first land bank to complete a project through this Legacy Cities Access Program, so we're really excited about it. So that was really a really exciting event for us. As I mentioned before, we're hoping to do our groundbreaking on the second Legacy Cities project soon with 6 additional properties. The listed addresses up here. You may have also, if you've driven around town and seen big banners, we put big banners in front of the house so people know, hey, we've got a new house coming soon. You know, hopefully that it aligns with all the good work we've done around Kingston so far. And then looking ahead, you know, we're gonna, even though we have a good number of properties in the queue right now, we're gonna continue to develop a pipeline so that we continue to have projects going forward, and as well as new construction using the ARPA funds and other state grants. We've got this report to the Corporation Council. We also have quarterly reports to the council and the comptroller under the City of Kingston disposition policy. And then one of our key goals this year that we're working on with our board and our committees is increasing community engagement so that you know, we still have a surprising number of people who don't really know who we are, what we do, mix us up with the Kingston Land Trust. We're not the same.
That's right.
So
Them up with you, so.
yes, exactly. So, you know, our big goal this year is to get that message out, make sure that, you know, everybody who can qualify and is interested in these homes is applying for it, and knows who we are and what we're trying to accomplish. So the City of Kingston ARPA fund. So the as part of the ARPA grant, we were initially tentatively granted $1.1 million towards future projects. There was an increase of $150,000 added for making best efforts to demo a house that really is unfortunately not really savable at 177 Murray, in the hopes of then figuring out later some other development options for that property once it's demoed. But these funds, they've got a couple of eligible expenses that we can put it towards that we're really excited to do that with the various projects we have coming up. Most importantly, the Big Third Avenue project. This is an aerial view of that big plot of land that we've kind of pieced together and are in very early stages of planning out what some new development opportunities will be for that property. And so we finished closing out the contract with the city. As a condition of those funds, it requires implementing the City of Kingston's municipal preference policy, which I'm sure you all have seen and are familiar with. But that would apply to at least 70% of the units that receive any funds through this program. So it has a preference based on a point system, first based on current residents or those who work or are hired to work in the City of Kingston, a second tier for former residents that can prove previous residency, and then a third tier with certain special characteristics with disabilities or survivors of domestic violence. That's really it. So we wanted to make sure we left a whole bunch of time if anybody has questions or wanted to chat. Mike can come up and join me. Happy to answer any questions you guys have.
I just want to make a couple comments here. This is very impressive stuff. This is really unbelievable how much you guys are doing for, you know, such a small office. I am a little curious, and I guess just out of my own curiosity, that we're the only program in the state doing this. Why wouldn't anybody, and who, did you guys come up with the idea of rehabbing this, selling? How did this come to be? And don't be afraid to pat yourself on the back.
part of that's volume, right? I mean, some of the land banks have just way too much volume to be able to develop them themselves. I mean, Buffalo gets how many properties? Like hundreds.
Many of them get hundreds.
So part of it is just scope. But in terms of making a priority for affordable housing, I think that's kind of always been our mission from the get-go.
And
Just to add to that.
Yeah, please.
If I could, it was more of it was additionally right place, right time. And so Kingston saw the highest price appreciation on a percentage basis throughout the pandemic in the entire United States. As Nate said, we had a very small volume, and the board made the decision to focus on doing most of it good for the properties that we were afforded on working with the city. So affordable homeownership is the hardest avenue to pursue for an organization. It takes the most amount of time, most amount of resources, most amount of expertise. And so we said, let's try that. And that was our pilot, which we just completed. So with your support and with your trust. Thank you.
Yeah, I echo what Steve says, and, you know, I got on when you guys were just really getting going, and it's really been like the little engine that could, and it's doing amazing things, so.
Thank you very much.
It's really great to see the evolution.
We wouldn't be here without the council's support. In many ways.
it took full disclosure here, it took me a while to get on board for this. You know, I was kind of happy with the way we used to have the, you know, auctions and, you know, bidding, and we made a lot of money, and, you know, you come into this job figuring, you know, that should really fiscally is what we're all about. So I really took me a while to break from that, you know, to come around this, but we're really accomplishing both. We're getting our taxes back. I mean, you know, we're having our cake and eat it too, basically. I mean, it's really good. You know, I'm glad I did make the turnaround. But let me ask you a question. And with all these success stories, have we had anybody that says, sorry, I just can't do this. I can't maintain this property, or, you know, have we had to take a step back from anything? I mean, I haven't heard of anything. Everything seems to go really smoothly. They take over the property, and, you know, everything seems to be good. But I'm just wondering, you know, maybe I'm not on top of everything.
There was a piece of siding that came loose on. We
Geez.
we fixed that within a few days.
Yeah,
Um,
but it's not causing somebody to say, I want to get out of here,
no,
right? Nothing like that.
I think the strength of what we're doing is we're also underwriting properly. And so a household's gross household income typically, you know, it's like 50 to 60% goes towards their housing expenses. We underwrite to 33%.
Yeah,
So there's that much more of a gap. So I think that's a big piece of it. It's like a subtle nuance, but I think that's,
yeah,
it's cheaper than renting. I know this is a recorded meeting, but it's cheaper than renting for everyone who purchases,
Yeah.
including 169 Hurley, was our most recent sale, not to get into people's personal details. It's cheaper than renting.
yeah.
Yeah, that's why we should always be encouraging more opportunities for affordable first-time homeownership.
But there are people in the world that, for lack of a better description, bite off more than they can chew. But nobody said, geez, I really, you know, I thought we could swing this, but we can't. And I haven't seen any paperwork that we're taking things back from anybody or anything like that, right?
And actually, just to add on to that, I mean, one of the things that we really focus on is really thoughtful redevelopment of these houses, so that, like, we're not handing over something that's a piece of junk that is gonna fall apart in a couple of years, right? So we really want this to be a strong foundation for these families that are moving in. And we actually forgot to put it in the presentation, but we were recognized by the New York State Preservation Society last year.
Nice.
In part because, you know, Kingston has a lot of history, and we want to make sure we're preserving that as part of these rehabs as well.
So, and you got, you know, the work that I've seen, you guys pay an amazing amount of attention to the details, you know, maintaining the old features, you know, window sashes, and, you know, it looks really good. I was very impressed that the one really old, really terrible shaped house, I mean, it looks fantastic. But you managed to keep some of those classic features that probably would have got, you know, fallen out to the trash or something like that if somebody else was gonna rehab the property.
I don't think our board would let them go. I think they can and have made a knock on
Yeah, or dug them out of the trash in some cases.
And and I don't want this to sound like a complaint. I don't remember seeing anything about the Rogers Street. It's not my ward, but it's right around the corner from me. And usually I get invites to all of them, but I don't, but it's been a long winter. I've been sick a lot and I missed a lot of stuff, so maybe I just missed it. I would have loved to have been over there. It's right around, I jog past that building all the time. And even though it's not my ward, they used to have my signs. They'd have my signs on the house and everything, so it has a sentimental value too.
Understood.
So, but I go, like I said, I go by there every day, so, I keeping an eye on the work and making sure it looked like they were doing a good job.
Yeah, the ribbon cutting we just had at Hurley was meant to be sort of for all three of those properties. So we held it at Hurley that was just what worked out with the families and everyone. But it was sort of including that.
Yeah, but no problem. I mean, I probably missed it.
No, they didn't have it, they had it early.
The one. Oh, okay. I thought you said you were doing it all.
No, we can only do.
Yeah.
Events.
Oh, come
You
on.
can't build a home and have a big party.
Okay, I misunderstood what you were saying. Okay,
But for your information, at home will be sold out this month.
Great.
okay, cool. Very good.
And do you have criteria for, the people who are applying so that you're making, you're sort of making sure that the people who are applying are people who are really committed to taking care of the house and living in it?
I mean,
Or-
I don't know,
I don't-
I don't know if we really get into that with the purchase.
Yeah.
So it's financial criteria?
It's household size and income.
Okay.
And I think it's worth noting that that's at arm's length. So there's a third party that verifies all that, that
Okay.
talks to families. We don't even know who the families are. Until the day of the ribbon
Okay.
cutting, no one's meeting the families.
Oh.
And so it's
that's
this idea that
interesting.
there's always big separation and all that.
And like when we do the lottery,
I
they
see.
all have an ID number, so we don't even see the names when we pull them out of the hat. It's very.
So it's a lottery more than anything else, and
Yes.
people have to meet certain financial criteria.
Household size and income verification is
That's it.
verified all the way down.
Okay, oh, that's good to know.
Is this a statewide lottery or?
No, this is, it's held locally. It's for anyone in the world.
But anybody.
Yeah.
Is there any bonuses given, like your numbers enter twice if you already live in the city? No.
Well,
No, just
under the
individuals.
preference policy,
Different.
it would be approached differently. There's a point system.
Okay.
So, we haven't done that yet, but we have tried to, and that was in part because of some questions we had over fair housing laws and not wanting to create a liability for the organization, but one way we've worked around that is tried to make our marketing for the homes be very locally targeted. So we, put an ad on the UCAT bus going around town. We've tried to learn from each new marketing process we've done to really try and target the local community. Yeah.
I think that's the big piece of it, is that you can target your marketing locally. You can do that. So we do that.
Right.
Great. That's what you can do.
And you have that preference policy.
We do that.
Yeah, you have like a huge Instagram and, social media presence.
I'm just so bad at Instagram, that's why I have.
No, it's, you have a lot of followers and people really love seeing all of those things that get posted.
And it helps us a lot with fundraising. That's big.
Well, thank you for doing what you do.
Great job, guys.
Yeah.
Keep it up.
Keep it up.
Sounds good. Reach out to us if you guys have any other questions that you
Okay.
guys out. We're around.
All right, very good. Great job.
Thank you very much.
It's been interesting. So yeah, I asked her, and then I heard my.
Oh.
Still.
You gonna join us? All right.
It should be painless, since you've all been part of the process. I do have Kate Molinaro and Emily Riley, who are also joining us. Lisa's left them into the meeting. So before I also have them speak, we went through the process of doing the public hearings and the informational sessions and whatnot with them. But prior to them coming on board to do the plans, I just want to state that I started the process in October when I did my first public hearing, 3 public informational meetings, and then started meetings with the advisory committee. So with that being said, are Kate and Emily there?
Yep.
Okay, great. So, since you're firming up things, I know if you want to help give a brief overview
Yeah.
of what's happened and where we go from here.
Sure. Yeah. So thank you. So as Mandy said, probably in maybe February of this year, she kicked off the process in the fall and then got M&L on board. And in February or so of this year, we started the planning process. So conducted a lot of stakeholder outreach. I think we had 7 or 8 different meetings with affordable and accessible housing providers. We met with the Housing Authority. We met with ORTEC and the Office of Housing Initiatives. We met with the mayor. We met with the Continuum of Care, homeless service providers, economic development providers, a whole slew of providers in the city to get us into what the needs were that could possibly be addressed with this next 5-year plan. We also looked at other homeless data from the Continuum of Care, the point in time, the housing inventory chart. We looked at HUD's comprehensive housing affordability strategy data, American Community Survey, and the census to look at what the quantifiable needs were related to the housing market and the picture of homelessness in the city. Together, both of those qualitative and quantitative analyses informed the strategic plan. So the biggest component of the consolidated plan, aside from the data analysis, is identifying what those goals and priority needs will be over the 5-year period covered by that plan. And so after this process, we identified the goals as being improving access to and quality of affordable housing, improving and providing public services, improving public facilities and infrastructure, economic development activities, and then of course planning and administration. And that goal is really related more to the city's implementation of the CDBG program over the 5 years, but HUD does like us to create a goal. And so again, those 5 goals were established after an extensive outreach and data analysis process. As you all know, the city is expecting about $650,000 for its 2024 annual action plan. So while we looked at the strategic plan, created these 5-year goals, we're also putting together the 2024 action plan to tell HUD how the city is going to spend 2024's allocation. We don't yet know what that amount will be. We're expecting that probably in the next 2 weeks or so. But using an estimated amount of $650,000 is what helped prepare the budget. And again, I think all of these projects were vetted by this committee, but the proposed projects for 2024 are housing rehabilitation, public services, including youth services, food assistance, limited English proficiency services, recreation programming, and literacy services. A majority of the budget is going to public facility and infrastructure project. This would be the phase 3 of the Midtown Sewer Rehab project. And then of course, the maximum 20% for planning and administration. And so that is what rounds out our 24 through 28 consolidated plan. Happy to answer any questions about the process, findings, things like that. But we really enjoyed working. This was our first time working with the city, and we really enjoyed working in Kingston. I use it as an example in other communities where we're also working, because I think the city has one of the more progressive housing policies, and you're really doing all the right things to address the affordable housing crisis in Kingston. So really, really impressed with that work that I talk about it in other communities. So, but again, happy to answer questions.
Anybody have any questions?
Not really, it seems like Dave did a great
Very
job
thorough.
covering it, and we've
Very
been
thorough.
going all along, and I'm very happy to hear that we are doing the right things compared to everyone else, so. I like that.
Very nice.
Yeah.
Good job.
So on behalf of the entire advisory committee, I would ask that you adopt it, take our plans to caucus and then to the full council so that we can move forward once they adopt and give a resolution, then we can move forward with submitting everything to HUD.
And when do you have to have everything submitted to HUD? I'm
Well,
forgetting what you said.
So they
You told
have,
us, but-
they have at least 45 days to review. And if they have any issues, come back to us. Since I've been in this position, I've managed to get the plans in way before we need, because sometimes they take 60 days. So our game plan is, it gets passed in May.
Right.
Things get uploaded, they'll have them shortly after, and then we'll just sit and wait.
Right.
And if we don't hear anything, no news is good news. And then come July 1st, we wait for the agreement from HUD to come so that we can
So that's.
get into a formal agreement with them, and then we can start using the money.
Okay, thank you. So,
Anybody else? Question? This is so thorough, we don't even have a question.
but we've been apprised of this
Yes,
going
yes.
along too, so. Thank you, this is
All right.
this is great. Thank you for your work. Thank you. All of
Thank you.
Thanks for being here. Thanks for your enthusiasm.
Yeah, sure.
Seem genuinely excited. That's it.
So I guess,
You're
yeah.
done.
So,
I was gonna say, do we have?
You
I see
should.
there's one on
you
our
should.
PDF here.
Geez, I didn't see one.
Let's put it in the packet. I need to vote for it.
I wasn't quite sure whether we needed a committee, I didn't do one, so.
Probably after that thing, after that whole report.
Could be. Let's see here.
Yeah, no, we need to do that. to make it-
Page 233 of the PDF, so it's probably one of the last couple pages.
I see it, I see it.
See it?
I see it. I'm so excited, you're gonna, we get it for you. It's right there.
Oh, geez.
At the very
Nice, very nice. I didn't see that. Okay. Okay. So here's the resolution as of the committee report as it reads. Resolution of the City of Kingston Common Council to adopt the fiscal year 2024 through 2028 HUD CDBG 5-year consolidated plan, the analysis to impediments to fair housing choices, and the updated citizen participation plan.
Motion? Second?
Okay. All in favor?
Aye.
Anyone opposed? Okay, very good.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
You can go home and relax now.
Not gonna worry. Okay, thanks.
That brings us to you, sir.
Yes.
So I just want to let everyone know that President Shaw is called in sick, so she will not be joining us.
Could we maybe get the ETPA update before we discuss the applicants?
Yes.
If that's okay with the chair.
Yeah.
So this was in my update from the Housing.
Yeah.
So on the Emergency Tenant Protection Act, as you all know, the third appellate did rule in the city's favor. As to the rental vacancy study that was completed in 2022. And the court ruled that the emergency declaration, housing emergency declaration was valid as a result. So that's what we do know. The other part of the ruling stated that the 15% rent reduction, that the actions of the rent guidelines board were within the statute. However, the court did not give any administrative guidance as to how New York State should actually proceed based on the ruling. And so until, from my perspective, until such guidance is issued, either by the state or via the Rent Guidelines Board, it's status quo in terms of lease renewals for any government. So that's the kind of latest and greatest on TPA. Yeah.
So should property owners be immediately reducing their rental?
Well, until there's guidance from New York State or the Rent Guidelines Board, no, they should not be taking any action. Or, I mean, they're welcome to reduce rents, right? Of course, but if they're taking any action based on the ruling, again, I would wait to see what New York State has to say. Similarly, if any tenant, is asking for a 50% rent reduction or not renewing their lease until they receive such a rent reduction, my recommendation is that it's status quo until there's any guidance from New York State.
So who will this come from? HCR?
They are the administrative agency of the
Okay.
TPA, right? So any guidance would have to come from HCR. They might want the Rent Guidelines Board to be involved, right, in
Right.
any decision making.
So have they been communicating that they're going to issue guidance, or like, what do we know and what is the conflict communication been about it, around it?
It is my expectation that they will issue some guidance.
Okay.
I have written,
Between now and the end of time.
I have requested that they
Okay.
issue guidance, obviously, because
Yeah.
there's a lot of uncertainty. And so they have said that they will do that.
Okay.
So
But they don't have any time.
I don't have a timeframe. But again, I think until that happens, it's status quo. because
And
the
months,
ruling-
months still for everyone?
They can renew their no, they can do
And they
one or
can
2
do
years.
that, okay.
And wait for any guidance.
But
Because again,
but if they
decision-
renew the lease, it would be at the status quo until,
Exactly.
and then any rent reductions going forward would be retroactive potentially, or we don't know. That's part of it.
Potentially, right, it could apply to current leases, it's unclear. It's complicated, this is very complicated because as you know, the rent reduction was technically for a prior year.
It was for 2022 to 2023, for
Yes.
1 and 2 year leases, but nobody signed a lease in 22. It was the status quo lease from the moment we opted in.
So how this applies, it's a little bit complicated.
So I got a 14-day notice today, that's why I was late.
So,
Got one, that's why I was late, I literally got a 14-day notice.
because
My landlord and I have a tenuous relationship. They do not enjoy having a city councilman, a member of the Rent Guidelines Board as a tenant.
That's a very diplomatic way of putting it.
They own Chestnut Mansion as well.
Yes.
So yeah, take home message is status quo, and I want to be involved, but the city of Kingston, our involvement formally ended at the
Right,
At
the
the
emergency,
declaration,
right,
right, and obviously there's a Rent Guidelines Board member vacancy that needs to be filled,
right.
but apart from that, it's the state administering this.
Safe, not the city, okay.
So, and by the way, the city of Kingston is now again the only city that's opted into HEB.
Right,
Because
Newburgh.
was shut down. So,
So what happened in yeah.
The court decided in the opposite direction.
For New York.
Yes, well, their first level.
Yeah, they're Supreme Court.
Oh, there's Supreme Court.
They're in
So
a
not
different,
totally
different-
yeah, they're in a
Yeah,
different,
Okay.
appellate, they're in a different appellate
Different
district.
Okay.
And they haven't even sat their board yet, right?
No,
No.
they were told they can't.
so
Wow.
Do you have any kind of time frame? Because what we usually, the Rent Guidelines Board usually holds its first meeting of information held in the last year around June.
Mhm.
And I say that, as a member of the rent guidelines board, I haven't received any
Yeah.
information from UCR.
So most of the rent guidelines boards meet late spring, early summer, so that's probably when the meeting will happen. The information session and also the public, public hearings. So,
Do you have a unit tickler, your unit tracker?
Oh, wait, you're talking, I'm waiting to get permit data from the past 2 months.
Okay.
So.
Okay.
When there's a big update on this.
Okay.
Do let us know.
Yeah. The other, since we're on this agenda item, there's, one other housing update I just want to mention, which is the redevelopment of the business park.
Oh, yeah.
And so the,
Mhm.
KLDC, Kingston Local Development Corporation owns the business park, and this project is in collaboration with them. And so we do have a request for proposals out right now, seeking an architectural design firm to help determine the basic vision of what's possible up there, given some of the site use constraints. There is a lot of interest, I'll tell you that much.
I'm glad to hear it.
And so, the deadline for that is later in May, but I think we'll have a lot of good responses from firms locally, nationally, and potentially internationally. So that's
It's great news.
early stages, but it's moving along.
Great views up there.
And also there's
Great news and views, okay.
yes.
Just, I feel like I should know this more than you, but is that currently on a UCAT bus route?
I want to say it goes down Delaware Avenue. I believe yes, I believe the bus does go down Delaware Avenue.
Oh, great,
Yes.
awesome.
Yeah, and then one of the reasons why I know that is because the land bank is part of the Third Avenue redevelopment. They're thinking about whether the bus route could also go around that site and serve residents there if there's a need.
Well, now is definitely the time for the Department of Housing as well as for the land bank to be reaching out to UCAT and the county because they're doing their route study. So a major development.
Yeah.
They would want to probably consider as part of their route study.
Okay, great. One of the challenges of that site, this is something that the firm will help us look at, is it's very inaccessible. As there's only really one way in, and there's not even a sidewalk on that road. And so there's a larger conversation that needs to be had about connectivity between the business park and the surrounding neighborhoods, and also getting to the site in modes that are not just on wheels. So,
But in terms of accessibility, there's no problem with emergency vehicles accessing
Oh, no,
that
absolutely.
park? Okay.
Right, thank you.
Okay.
Thank you.
Yeah, that's exciting.
yes.
I'm sorry, when will you expect the RFPs to be back? You said.
End of
they're
May?
going out?
Yeah, the deadline is, I want to say May 19th. We're in the middle of it.
And I seem to remember I attended the KLDC meeting and I think they said that they hope to have a plan by the end of the year.
Yes, I think it'll take the firm
A while, so,
some time
right,
to do their work.
right, right, because there's a lot of
I think
analysis.
6
that
months
has
is
to happen.
probably right,
Right, that's sort of what they were thinking too.
so. just
But
wanted to
that's
make sure.
good, so that we can launch into the new year with looking for what's going to happen there. It's great.
Exactly, I
Yeah,
think it's
great.
very exciting, and it's, the due date is May 17th.
I'm excited.
We have a lot more constituents.
Yeah,
Okay, any other
so
general housing updates, otherwise I can launch into the.
into the, sure.
Okay. So there is a public member vacancy on the rent guidelines board, and the town council does have responsibility to recommend to the state a member. We did have a public solicitation, and we received 9 applications. I do want to note that there are these 2 requirements, that they have to be residents of the city of Kingston, And they also have to have at least 5 years experience in finance, economics, or housing. And I'm asking,
Definite criteria.
That's from the state.
It's from the
It's
state.
it's in the state statute.
and so I'm asking, you tonight to recommend a member and also a backup. Just in case.
I'd like to make a motion to go into executive session to discuss reviewing personnel applications.
And allow Bartek to say.
Yes, and allow our tech to say.
Oh,
Second.
motion second,
Okay.
all in favor?
Bye.
I just pressed mute and turn the camera off, right?
Yeah.
I forgot we were in an executive session.
We were having too much fun to not be in executive session. Are we out of it now?
Yes.
Okay.
I don't know.
All right, so the committee report reads, recommending the appointment of Lee. I keep putting a B instead of a Dodson, as a public member of the City of Kingston Rent Guideline Board, and the appointment of Carolyn Woodard and Daniel Millian as alternates.
Motion?
Second.
Motion. Favor?
Aye.
Anybody opposed? Okay.
All right, thanks.
Thank you.
Thank you for your update.
Thank
Thank you
you.
for this.
Um,
Have a great rest of your evening.
so, Andrew wanted to know if you wanted to stay for the housing task force, or we can table it, like,
So
what do you?
working group?
Yeah, work group.
I think if, since Andrea isn't here, I'm fine to table it. It's
Okay.
not, because it's not urgent.
Okay,
Yeah,
Okay.
and I think it'd be better if she's here.
yeah, that's what I thought.
Have they met yet?
We have met once.
Okay,
Thank you.
thank you, sir. All right, since that was the last item. Anybody have anything else for the good of the order?
Yeah.
Okay,
Yeah.
entertaining motion to adjourn.
Second?
All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you.
So moved.
Thank you, Steve.
Thank you, people. We got.
Thank you, Lisa.
Thank you.
Thank you, Lisa. Here, we need, no.